welcome back to the CU Sports Magazine. Joining me this week, Al Miller, my partner in crime. I'm Todd Gary. We'd like to thank you for joining us. Unless you've been living in a box last week, you will know that CU lost to Nebraska, a heartbreaking loss here at Folsom Field, and not much CU can do to go for the national championship now. They're pretty much out of the race.
Yes, they are. These two teams get together, seems for the past 4 or 5 years on Halloween weekend, and every year it seems like it's the Huskers that spook the Buffaloes, and it doesn't seem like we know exactly what to do about it.
Yes, we don't. But let's go ahead and head out to Folsom Field and take a look at the highlights. CU and Nebraska came into Folsom Field with visions of tortillas dancing in their head. Even the nuns showed up for this one. There you see the capacity crowd at Folsom Field.
Odds will that we destroy Nebraska, without a doubt.
The team that walked out with a victory would most likely earn a berth in the Fiesta Bowl and play for the national championship. Folsom Field hadn't seen a day like this one for a long time, and this Buff fan gave his prediction just before the game.
They're not even going to score. They're going to score every possession. Oh, it's all the way. They're not even 0. 65-0. We're going to crush it.
That's right. They're not even going to score. First play from scrimmage, Amon Green takes it 57 yards for the touch, but CU has a running game too. Herschel Troutman takes it up the gut for 13. Then John Hessler goes to work. He hits the little man over the middle for a 23-yard gain. Nice move from Herschel Troutman to get free. John Hessler. The rainbow to Phil Savoy. Puts 6 on the board. Hessler showing he can put some touch on the ball. But Tommy Frazier got a chance to show why he is one of the best quarterbacks in the nation this year. He tore up the CU defense for 241 yards through the air. Controversial call coming up here. Amon Green appears to cough up the ball, and Kenny Wilkins scoops it up for what would be, and should be, a CU touchdown. But the official said the ball was dead. You make the call. Take a look. Amon Green up the middle. Somebody gets a hand on it. That ball is clearly loose before he hits the ground. CU would have been upset 14-7 at that point, but instead, Nebraska would intercept this John Hessler pass on CU's next interception. Where were you throwing that to, John? And the Huskers would take a lead for good on Amon Green's second touchdown of the day right here. And then Nebraska right back at you. Frazier finds Lester Green streaking on the sideline, and Lester steals one from Steve Rosga. Take another look at it. Rosga never even turned his head, and Lester gets an early Christmas present from CU this year. Nebraska starting to put the heat on CU. But when CU gets desperate, they go back to the little man. Herschel Troutman skirting through the Nebraska line for another big gainer. Then Hessler hits Chris Anderson on this quick out, and Anderson carries half the Nebraska secondary down to their 6-yard line. What's that I hear coming? L-Train. Lendon Henry takes it to the goal line. And what's this I hear? The L-Train again? But he coughs it up at the goal line. Which 300-pound lineman will get to it first? Keith Irwin gets there, and CU is back within 7. But Tommy Frazier was unconscious on this day. He gets blindsided by CU and still gets a 30-yard pass off to Amon Green to set the Huskers up for a field goal. And then with 15 seconds left in the half, Frazier finds his tight end in the end zone for his second touchdown pass of the day. The Huskers go in at halftime, leading the Buffs by 16 points. And they just really took it to CU there in the first half. They really held the ball control offense, which is what Tom Osborne is famous for.
Right. Well, one of the big keys was the first play from scrimmage when Tommy Frazier said as soon as he looked at the CU defensive alignment, he just flat out knew that when he pitched the ball to Amon Green, Green would go all the way. Secondly, they did get a bad break on the no call when Amon Green fumbled later in the first half, and Kenny Wilkins returned it for what appeared to be an apparent touchdown, but it was called back by the officials. But national championship caliber teams overcome mistakes like that. You won't see a Florida State let something like a no call on a fumble return drag them down. it proves to us that the Buffs are not a championship team.
We'll talk about that Florida State team you just mentioned in a second. But I agree. CU played real tough in that one. But Tom Osborne came out with that set that they had never used before, and CU was just stumped. They didn't know what to happen. But Nebraska played flawless football in the first half. They picked up all their blocks. They made the blocks when they had to and got Amon Green open down the sideline. And you just can't say enough about those Nebraska backs. They are so fast.
Yes, they are fast. And Tommy Frazier, you saw that pass he made when he was blindsided by Greg Jones. And he still got the pass off, 30-yard gain. That's turning a potential 14-yard loss into a 30-yard gain. So for all intents and purposes, it's a 44-yard play. He did that numerous times during the day to the Buffs. He would carry Buff tacklers 4 and 5 yards at a time for extra yardage. And that seemed to make the difference in the game was Frazier's extra effort.
So let's go back out to Folsom Field for the second half. What do you got for us, Al?
Okay, well, CU coach Rick Neuheisel knew that the Nebraska touchdown right before halftime put his Buffaloes in a big hole, but CU came out strong. It's John Hessler to James Kidd. Hessler says, I threw that pass. I'm happy because, well, I threw that pass. Kidd said, yeah, I caught that pass. And the Buffs are pumped up. They're so pumped up that their special teams comes out and makes a big play, held Nebraska to their 10-yard line on the next kickoff. But then, after that, it started to go downhill for the Buffs. Rick Neuheisel says, I think I see victory. You know, I think I see victory. Is that victory? No, it's a yellow flag, Rick. Your team is committing far too many penalties. Right here, in this case, it's offside. Then just a bit later after that, the ref says, your team's moving too early, Rick. Then just after that, the ref says, Rick, your players are in places they're not supposed to be. Rick Neuheisel says, huh? That's not victory. I don't think I see victory there. Jeez, oh man. Darn it. Too many penalties hurt the Buffs, but so did Tommy Frazier and the Huskers. Running up the middle here for 15 big yards is Clinton Childs. And then just after that, the Huskers say, you know, we'll kick a field goal because we're the best team in the Big Eight, and we know that we're good. But CU never could seem to get on track. Here comes the Nebraska linebacker from the backside of Hessler, intercepted. The Nebraska defense and offense dominating CU in the second half just enough, and Nebraska cheerleaders are happy. Here comes Nebraska decides they're going to kick, yes, another field goal because, well, Nebraska's the best team in the Big Eight, and yes, indeed, they are good. Nebraska says, okay, we've had enough field goals now. Tommy Frazier, why don't you run in a quick little touchdown here just to show the Buffaloes how bad they are and how good you are. Humiliate CU as much as you possibly can. Tom Osborne says, yes, we are winners because we are Nebraska. Rick Neuheisel says, yes, we are losers because we are Colorado, and when Nebraska plays Colorado, that's just what happens.
4-1 now against Nebraska since the 1990 championship year. That's a bitter pill for these Buffs to swallow.
A bitter pill, to say the least. After success, they beat Nebraska in 86, 89, and 90. It looked like that the rivalry was starting to even out. Of course, it is a rivalry that former CU coach Bill McCartney started. Like I said, it looked like it was starting to even out, but past 5 years, CU doesn't have a clue.
These two teams can obviously play with each other since 1992. CU has shown that, especially last year, going 11-1, but just not able to overcome the mistakes in the big games with Big Red. Let's take a look at these statistics real quick. CU, 12 penalties on the day for 92 yards, 3 turnovers, I believe it was, and Nebraska just played flawless football. We said that earlier. No turnovers, no penalties. I mean, no penalties. How can you beat a team that doesn't have any penalties in this game?
Well, the greatest coaches in the history of college football, you look at Newt Rockne, you look at Bo Schembechler a bit later at Michigan, of whom McCartney was a disciple. And those coaches have always stressed fundamentals. Coaches like Bobby Bowden at Florida State have kind of strayed away from that and gone toward athleticism over the past couple of years. But all in all, fundamentals win big football games, and Nebraska played perfect on Saturday. CU did not. CU had penalties in double digits. Nebraska had no penalties. CU committed 3 turnovers. Nebraska committed none. And when you have statistics like that, who do you think is going to win?
Well, key statistic here, CU defense, we have to give them credit. They did play a good game. Obviously, they had Nebraska had a couple easy points off CU turnovers, but CU held Nebraska to 3.2 yards rushing per rush after that first Amon Green run, and that's pretty impressive considering they average over 7 yards a carry, and they're averaging some god-awful number like 400 yards rushing per game or something so far through 7 games. So CU's defense definitely held it. Their offense just couldn't put it up on the board.
Bottom line is also Nebraska may have not run the ball as well after that first play, but they were able to move the ball exactly when they had to, whether it was on the ground or through the air. They chewed up the clock in the second half. And when you do that, when you dominate time of possession, it's hard for the other team to make a comeback. And with CU down 17 points at halftime, that's what they would have had to do to win the football game.
So a solemn day at Folsom Field. When we come back from break, we will take a look at that day at Folsom Field last Saturday, a day which will live in infamy.
All right, I think. Feels all right.
11:30.
Excuse me. Do you wear your safety belt?
Why, no. I don't wear my safety belt.
Thank you.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt. Agents. Last year, she helped convict 90 drug dealers, seized several tons of crack and marijuana, and closed down 10 major drug operations. She is a 68-year-old grandmother named Irma. She set up a community drug watch that is not only changing her neighborhood, but its future. There are many ways to help in your community. Call the Points of Light Foundation. Do something good. Feel something real.
Well, I had a chance this week to go back and look at some of the sights and sounds that happened in Folsom Field last Saturday. One of the best days, one of the biggest days in Folsom Field at Boulder. Let's take a look. After posting an 0-3-1 record against the Huskers since their national championship year in 1990, the Buffs and their fans were ready to try anything. The fans showed up in some rather festive garb. There were those who chose to show their spirit with signs. Others tried body paint. A lot of body paint, maybe even too much body paint. But Folsom Field had never seen a gathering of this kind. Before a record crowd of 54,063, the Buffs entered the stadium through the student section. They crossed the field through a line of former CU players and rallied at midfield to a Samoan war drum. The who's who of sports in Colorado showed up for this one, including John Elway. And even the gambler knew when to walk away. He knew when to run to a CU game. But when the final guns sounded, those friendly farmers to the east had performed a horticultural miracle. They harvested the black and gold in Boulder and grew a little bit of red. So a solemn look back. It was a time of a lot of different things at CU. They tried coming down through the stands, the Samoan war chant, wartime.
Wartime. Wartime.
Didn't work though. We
Didn't
still
work
lost.
at all. Didn't work at all. It was.
All right, let's take a look at this week's top 10. You'll see that Nebraska went ahead and held on to that number one spot. Actually, they moved up to number one after beating CU, so that kind of means the pollsters are giving CU a little respect. Nebraska beating CU that played one of the hardest schedules in the nation this year, and they beat them, and they move ahead of Florida State. Florida State actually had more first place points. Nebraska came up with more overall points, though.
Right, but then the Seminoles went out and pulled a bozo move last night, losing to the Virginia Cavaliers. And what do you think about that?
Well, you know, Danny Cannell had 454 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Warwick Dunn only gained 54 yards, so Bobby Bowden decided to play an air game last night. Didn't work for him. They ended up losing 43-38. The game ended on Virginia's 6-yard line with 6 seconds left. Dunn took the direct snap to him, bobbled the ball, and was called down inches short of the goal line with time ticking off. So Florida State's national championship chances are gone.
Pretty much so. It'll move the Florida Gators probably up to number 2. And this is one of those years where we may have to look for co-national champions, as both Ohio State and Northwestern are likely to be in the top 5 after this weekend.
And if Ohio State goes ahead and ends up being one of those top 2 teams, that's going to throw this Fiesta Bowl thing all out of whack. I'll tell you about that right now, though. Barring an unforeseen miracle, CU is out of the national championship race, which means the Fiesta Bowl is out of the picture as well. So you might be wondering, where will the Buffs be spending New Year's Eve this year? Well, there are several possibilities at this point, but the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl are looking like the best right now. To be invited to either of these bowls, CU will need 3 things to happen. First, they need to win out their season. That's an easy one. I think they can do that. Second, they need Notre Dame to lose one of its last 2 games to either Navy or Air Force, and I would say Air Force would probably have the best chance at that. And third, they will have to hope that Kansas loses one of its last games as well. If all of those things come together, which this scenario sounds far-fetched right now, but it is, CU's loss to the Huskers puts them in a fight for second place in the Big 8. So if there is no Cotton or Orange for CU this year, they will be off to the Holiday, Alamo, Aloha, or Copper Bowls, otherwise known as the Mediocrity Bowls, Al.
Exactly right. As far as a lot of fans around here are concerned, they're headed off to a Mediocrity Bowl at this point, no matter where they go, with 2 losses and a national championship clearly out of the picture. Everything from this point out seems to be relatively anticlimactic, and it's a team that has to reset their goals. Rick Neuheisel has never really coached a bowl game. He was a big part of last year's Fiesta Bowl victory over Notre Dame, but he has never really coached a bowl game. They have a lot of freshmen on this team, so we'll just have to see. My own idea is to put him against Northwestern in the Orange Bowl. Nice couple upstanding academic institutions pitted against one another.
I don't know about that one, Al. I don't know if CU's outstanding academic reputation goes as far as Northwestern, but we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But you have to realize in this one, though, CU came in this year, they were ranked number 13 to start out with, and there were really some clouds hanging over this program. Nobody knew what to expect from it. They lost 10 players to the NFL draft, which was a CU record, and the most players that any team lost in NCAA Division I football. So they lost a lot of talent from this team, and people are saying new coach, new starters, big questions. But Rick Neuheisel proved that this team can play. They just need to work on the mistakes, and they're going to have most of these players back next year, too.
Let's not forget that by the 6th week of the season, they lost the nation's leading passer in Koy Detmer, and that's something that kind of gets lost in all of this because people say, well, if they had Detmer, the Huskers would have husked the Buffaloes anyway. But we never know. Koy Detmer's a big force. He may have not made the same mental mistakes that John Hessler made last Saturday, and anything could have happened, and CU might still be undefeated, but that's the pipe dream we all live here at CU Sports Magazine. The reality is that they're 6-2. What's next, Todd?
Well, while the football team was watching its national championship hopes slip away in Boulder, the cross-country teams were tightening their grip on the national title race. The CU runners headed to the Big 8 championships in Lawrence, Kansas last weekend. The women's team took first place easily by a league record 59 points over second place Iowa State. The Buffs were led as usual by senior Patty Roberts. She won the individual title outright by beating her teammate Heather Burrows for first place. The men's team was led by first and 8th place finishers Adam Goucher and Alan Culpepper. Goucher ran a course record 23 minutes and 57 seconds, but their effort was wasted as the team finished in second place behind Oklahoma State on the day. And up next for the Buffs is the District 7 Championships, November 11th in Salt Lake City. So good luck to the cross-country teams. They're doing real well this year. Culpepper. He may laugh at his name, but he's got some legs. He can run.
Culpepper.
Yes, indeedy.
You think Dave Burton over there at the CU Training Center knows anything about putting any Culpepper on any of the CU player wounds?
They certainly have been doing enough running this year, so Dave Burton would be the man to do it. When we come back, we're going to see what he does at the Athletic Center. Stay with us.
Culpepper.
This is just one of the many parts you can play as a young Red Cross volunteer. Volunteer and play your part.
Of all the weapons used in the world in the last 40 years, none had more power than this one.
I see skies of blue and clouds of white. The bright, blessed day, the dark, sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
If you're not recycling, you're throwing it all away.
Everybody knows that broken hearts can be mended, but almost nobody knows that smokers' hearts can be mended too. As soon as you quit, the damaging effects of cigarettes begin to go away. In a matter of years, your risk of heart attack can be as low as someone who never smoked. So if you're trying to give up cigarettes for the first time or the fifth, remember, absence makes the heart grow stronger.
Well, of course, every CU athlete hopes that they never get injured, but we all know that there are many bangs and bruises that go along with sport. CU Sports Magazine's Michelle Post took a look at Colorado trainer Dave Burton and all of the athletes and machinery and bits and pieces of everything else that he deals with every day.
I'm here at Dal Ward Athletic Center, where student athletes come to train. But this isn't just a training facility, it's also a facility for trainers. Dave Burton is the head trainer here at CU. His main responsibility is keeping student athletes healthy for competition.
Basically, there's probably two components to our program. One is the primary goal of the program is to provide for the healthcare needs of all of the athletes here at the University of Colorado. So whether it's on nutritional counseling, information on drug education, drug testing procedures through the NCAA or through the conference, or just talking about injuries and illnesses as they relate to their performance on the field and in the classroom, that's our primary responsibility.
But keeping athletes healthy and playing isn't the only important aspect of the CU Sports Medicine program.
Secondary responsibility is to provide an educational program for students who are interested in the field of sports medicine. We have about 25 students who are actively involved in our program who help us meet the healthcare needs of the athletes, but who are also gaining valuable experience that they can take with them either on into physical therapy school, med school, physician's assistants training, or many of them go on into the profession of athletic training itself.
These trainers attend to athletes from every sport at CU, but the busiest time of year for a student trainer is football season. The majority of injuries that occur in college sports happen on the turf. These students attend to everything from AstroTurf burns to more serious things like muscle and ligament injuries, to some of the less glamorous jobs like keeping the players watered down. And don't forget the refs. The Dal Ward Training Center is one of the top facilities in the nation. The trainers use the best equipment available to rehabilitate athletes. Things like hydrotherapy pools to the latest in state-of-the-art electronic equipment. And don't forget the ever-faithful ice bag. So the way these athletes see it, if you're hurtin', go see Burton. For CU Sports Magazine, I'm Michelle Post.
All right, some tennis news for you in Buff Bits this week. CU junior tennis player Mark Bowers qualified for the NCAA Indoor Championships. Bowers is only the third CU tennis player ever to qualify for these championships. Only 32 players are selected each year to play for the national championship title. The date and location of these championships have not been announced yet, but as soon as they do, we will let you know what they are.
Former Colorado Buffalo and current Denver Bronco Mike Pritchard was in Boulder Court yesterday for preliminary proceedings after his weekend alcohol-related car accident left two CU students in the hospital. One of the students has since been released, but the other remains in the hospital with several broken ribs and a cracked vertebra. With former Buff J.J. Flanagan was with Pritchard at the time of the accident Sunday morning. Pritchard's Porsche first hit the students and then swerved and crashed violently into a telephone pole alongside of Broadway Avenue. Pritchard wasn't hurt and is expected to play in Denver's game this Sunday against Arizona.
All right, 2 weeks ago we told you it was Midnight Madness. This week it's just about here. That's right, basketball season opens in less than 2 weeks at CU. We told you there was a lot of excitement this year. Now we have proof. The men's team is looking like they might give the women's team some competition for the fans at the event center. The CU Ticket has already received 1,200 new season ticket orders for the men. That's up from last year at this time when there were only 100 new orders. What, you might ask, is the reason for the rush to the Foam Dome for tickets? It might be CU's two new high-profile players, Chauncey Billups and Martise Moore. The two new Buffs both finished second for the Big Eight's Freshman and Newcomer of the Year awards. The Big Eight's preseason poll also ranks CU 6th in the conference, their highest preseason ranking ever. But if you think that's impressive, listen to this. For the second year in a row, the women are picked to finish first in the Big Eight. Last year, CU went 14-0 in the conference and finished the season ranked number 2 in the country for the second straight year. Other preseason Big Eight honors go out to Michelle Hashhider as the Newcomer of the Year. DC Thomas and Aaron Schultz also made the Big Eight team, and both teams start the season at home in about a week and a half. So basketball is coming back to CU, and it should be good this year.
Oh yeah, since I've been here, certainly there hasn't been this much excitement about CU basketball. And also another aspect of this is the whole Joe Harrington thing. He is the reigning campus king of second chances, and with Chauncey Billups and Martise Moore in his lineup, if the Buffs don't make it to the field of 64 this year, look for Harrington to take his walk out the front door.
Bill Marolt did give him a one-year contract extension last year, something that was discussed heatedly in the Denver area press, but Marolt stood by his decision, stood by his man, and gave Harrington the one-year contract extension. But he's on a hook this year. If he doesn't do it, he could be done. Let's go ahead and take a look at this week's Play of the Week. We'll go back out to Folsom Field where it took place. We showed it to you in the first half highlights. We'll show it to you again. Hessler, Kidd, 6.
Touchdown.
Nice pass. Rainbow again from John Hessler, and CU just wasn't able to pull it off. They had a couple nice plays like that, but no dice for the Buffs.
That particular play came on 4th and 1. It showed how willing Rick Neuheisel was to take the biggest chance possible, hoping to help the Buffs get back in the game. Didn't work. Too bad.
Too bad. Well, the Buffs head to Oklahoma State this week, Stillwater. The game will be seen on Channel 20 in the Denver area tomorrow at 1:30, I believe it starts. CU kind of getting swept under the rug for this one. No national coverage, but when you're playing Oklahoma State, can you blame them?
No, you can't, and when you're playing CU, can you blame them at this point?
This is true.
6-2, I wouldn't want to watch them. I think I'm going to go fishing.
6-2 versus the 2-6 Cowboys, and of course, CU's former defensive line coach,
Bob Simmons.
That's right. Bob Simmons, the head coach at Oklahoma State now. So we'll see what he has to do. That has been discussed heatedly in the media as well this week, that he did not get the chance to coach CU. But I don't think too many people are going to be second-guessing Bill Marolt's decision this year.
Oh, no. Neuheisel obviously can coach. The Buffs are a decent team. They're a very young team. They're playing with a backup quarterback. I don't mean to harsh on them as much as I do in here.
Hey, that's our job.
That's right, it is.
That's our job. All right, and our job is finished here at the CU Sports Magazine. I'd like to thank you, Al Miller. I'm Todd Gary. The rest of the crew. We'll see you next week here on the CU Sports Magazine.
See you later.